I do remember on one occasion when we were moving from part to full-time and the salary negotiations became a real bone of contention. And I specifically remember standing in her office where she leapt up out of her chair, put her face approximately 4 inches from my face. She was spitting in my face, screaming, multiple times screaming at me over the phone, barrages of abusive text messages. Between 2 and 4 a.m. the barrage would start. That's what I'd wake up to. All incoherent, not really making sense, just basically someone to lash out at.
And the Golden Globe goes to
Amber.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No one told me I was going to have to actually come up here. Thank you. I'm really humbled and honored. This is where I started. This is where I'm from. And it means a lot to me to be here tonight. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. There is some things actually happening in the world that aren't Elon Musk associated today, although I admit it's been amazing to cover. And I appreciate everyone's support. And if you enjoy the coverage, make sure you click that red subscribe button down below the video. I would greatly, greatly appreciate you joining the crew. And we saw some bombshells this morning coming out in the testimony in Amber versus Johnny that make her look very, very, very bad. That in a lot of ways shatter the defense that this was like a one-directional thing. Like, you know, we know, everybody who knows that these two were very toxic. And even this, you know, the most stringent hashtag, you know, justice for Johnny people have to admit that, like, the data is just unlikely that the guy was constantly on the receiving end and never, ever, 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 ever did anything wrong. Again, as I always reiterate when I cover this, I don't really care about Hollywood people. They could both rot. But the point is, the reason this is important to me is because only one person saw any kind of backlash from this, and it was Johnny, of course. He's been essentially blackballed from Hollywood and cut off from doing what he likes to do, and that's what I care about. I don't care about Johnny Depp per se. I care about the hypocrisy. So we had both of their marriage counselors testified today, and it was very bad for Amber. So the marriage counselor said Thursday that the actress initiated physical altercations more than once, but the couple both engaged in mutual bad behavior. Dr. Laurel Anderson, a marriage counselor who worked with the former spouses for a total of 21 sessions back in 2015, gave revealing video testimony during the defamation trial. Quote, "I know she led the fights on more than one occasion and started it to keep him with her because abandonment and having him leave her was her worst nightmare." Amber reported that it was a point of pride to her if she felt disrespected to initiate a fight. Her father had raised his hands to her, and she was not going to end. If she was going to leave, she would strike him to keep him there. If he was going to leave, she would strike him to keep him there. She would rather be in a fight than have him leave. So it sounds like he was basically being held hostage, doesn't it? It doesn't really sound like he's the evil mastermind behind all of this stuff. Asked her for assessment that while Johnny said he didn't raise hands with her or with any other partners, asked if it was her assessment that while JD said he didn't raise hands with any other partners, there was this type of thing towards Amber. She said yes. Not a good look for Johnny. She said he had been well controlled for almost 20 or 30 years, and both JD and AH were on the receiving end of bad behavior in their homes. I thought he'd been well controlled for decades. With Amber, he was triggered and enraged, and what I saw was mutual bad behavior. Again, though, I think it's important, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but I think it's important that if that this case not be about whether or not he was bad. I think the case is about whether or not there was defamation that occurred. And it's going to be difficult, I think, for the jury if they keep seeing like repeated instances of where, even if Amber did it 10 times out of 11, and if they believe that he also participated in 1 times out of 11, it's going to be difficult for them to kind of give the guy $100 million. So the doctor gave the couple fake names, apparently to protect their identities. For their first meeting, she sat with the couple for 3.5 hours. In her notes, she said that one time one of the parties, quote, walked out, but she was not clear who. She said, I thought Johnny was having difficulty in the sessions, and I think it was something about the process between the two of them. Asked what difficulty, she said, having a voice. Amber had a jackhammer style of talking. She was very amped up. He had trouble talking at a similar pace. He was cut off a lot. I'm guessing that's what it was. This is how he didn't have a voice. He couldn't talk with a rapid-fire way of conversation, so he was really overwhelmed. Asked if Amber reported raising hands on the part of Johnny, and the doctor said yes. She recalled seeing photos of Amber with bruises and around her eyes. She never witnessed anything herself. The doctor notes show that Amber claimed that Johnny told her, Johnny says no one likes you. You're getting fame from me. I'm falling out of love with you. You were, apparently. The doctor described Johnny and Amber arguing as going back and forth, both firing at each other. They don't communicate. They have terrible skills. Amber talked over Johnny, and Dr. Anderson had to tell her that a conversation was impossible if she was barraging constantly. Again, like every bad piece, like essentially Johnny has such a huge uphill battle here where he has to essentially come out completely squeaky clean, or they have to focus on actually what was written and prove that it was, for example, like exaggerated or premeditated. And these are the things that I've talked about in the past. Like, these type of cases are very, very difficult to prove. And that doesn't mean I don't think he was wronged. It doesn't mean that I don't think he has a chance to win. It's just, I want to avoid being like some of the coverage where it's just totally over the top and pretending that, Johnny is a total saint and never did anything wrong, because that's just statistically unlikely. And, again, I'm not trying to simp for Hollywood trash either. I do think that both were rotten, and both probably, if anybody's getting excommunicated from Hollywood, you would think that it should be both of them. But only one person got it, and which is why I'm concerned about it. Text messages reveal that Johnny and friend Isaac Baruch were in court reading it, where one of the actors said that Amber ruined their cool life. In the text, Johnny said he had hoped Amber's rotting corpse is decomposing. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty pretty spicy. But again, these are text messages between friends. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that he did anything bad or that he raised hands. And this witness was very, very good. His longtime friend and neighbor, he took the stand and defended him. Seeing Amber essentially smiling in clips where you could see where her former assistant gets on the stand. Her name's Kate. Recalls one verbal incident in which, quote, I was standing in her office. She put her face approximately 4 inches from my face. She was spitting in my face, telling me how dare I ask for the salary I was asking for. At the same time, she was smirking.
I do remember on one occasion when we were moving from part to full-time, and the salary negotiations became a real bone of contention. And
by the way, this woman was paid $25 an hour while living in LA. That That's not even a living wage, to be honest. You could see the smirk happened when she was reliving, berating her, and also when she was, you could see Amber Heard listening testimony to Amber's raising hands or being mean, listening to herself also admitting that she raised her hands to Johnny. In both pictures, if you're on audio only, there's a large smirk. I think, the idea that I think this is such an uphill battle because I think, if the point of the suit is to show the world that this person is vile, that Amber's, kind of a garbage human, I think he can accomplish that, if that's all he cares about. I don't think, even if he wins, that he'll be, welcome back in Hollywood, because that would mean Hollywood people have to admit they're wrong. But certainly the defense that Johnny was some sort of maniacal, controlling monster, that's just not true. And I think the jury seeing just how, you have multiple people coming up there talking about, these altercations. You could see, revealing that she spat in her face just because she asked for a raise. She would fly into a blind rage, and also testified that she never saw any bruises or cuts on her in the 3 years that she was employed. Now, does she have motivation to, not exactly side with her? Sure. But this is what she's testifying to. She said that, Amber would get intoxicated and become more and more belligerent and abusive. That her insecurities with her relationship were because she didn't like to be away from Johnny's physical presence. She didn't like his friends. She told me she didn't like hanging out in his house with his friends because it was boring and they were all old men playing guitars and it wasn't interesting to her. Well, I mean, maybe don't marry a dude who's in his 50s then, if you're worried about, people being old. And, did you expect him to have all friends that were in their 20s? I'm not exactly sure. But this is pretty explosive in terms of, look, this guy is no saint, but neither is she. So, it destroys kind of that victim narehood. In fact, really what we're seeing is that he's giving as good as he got, or maybe not even as much. And, maybe that goes to him winning his case. I'm not optimistic, but I hope he does. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.